Wow. Showtime Shawn Porter says he feels he could be effective against a very good fighter, a great fighter in Terence Crawford because he's a fast starter. All that and more. Make sure you guys smash the like button. Stay tuned to this video. We working. Hey, yo, what up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also, subscribe to my channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. If you want to become part of the gang, notification gang, please hit the bell icon. Shout out to the Super Chats, channel donations, the Venmo donations, the Cash App, and the Patreon family. We working. Cash App, $ Boxing Ego. Let's get it. Showtime Shawn Porter has some things to say about Terence Crawford. He is currently sitting as the mandatory for Terence Crawford. Make sure you guys go ahead and smash that like button. Again, he's Terence Crawford's mandatory. This is what Shawn Porter said in an interview. Link in the description. I get it. Some of the guys that Crawford may have fought may not have been the best at the point in time. At that point in time. But he's good. You can't deny that. That's my dude, referring to Crawford. He's a real good boxer, a real good athlete. You see it all in the ring. Some guys, you really just see them either as a fighter, as a boxer. With him, you see him as a boxer and athlete, being able to make the right moves at the right time. Look at his eyes. You can see him thinking, calculating. That's professional boxing right there. It's not a secret that I am a fast starter. I don't like to get in there and just feel it out. The way I figure out what a guy wants to do is basically make him react. I think that's one thing that would work for me against Terence Crawford. What I do is not only do I try to win the rounds, but I try to present challenges right out the gate. Shawn Porter goes on to say, you're not going to get a fill out round against me. If you think you're going to want to figure it out, I'm not going to give you time to even say, quote, let me see how this works. It's either working or it's not, end quote. End quote from Showtime Shawn Porter. Now, I like this from Shawn Porter. Shawn Porter is the mandatory for two guys right now. Errol Spence Jr., who just fought Danny Garcia, and Terence Crawford, who fought a couple weeks before that against Kell Brook. Both are title fights. He's already fought one guy. He said he'd rather fight Crawford based on the fact that we haven't seen that fight before. Crawford is, let's just say, in an interesting position. You know, his promoter threw him under the bus. It's no secret. Bob Arum had some words to say, saying he's losing money on Crawford. Somehow, some way, Crawford said he's still the A side in the equation when it comes to Errol Spence. He seems hell-bent on getting an Errol Spence or a Manny Pacquiao fight next. But I don't really know the likelihood that that fight happens next, because you're talking about really two A-side guys. Manny Pacquiao, he has 70-plus fights, and he's a well-known household name. Been on pay-per-view, took on a stringent and tough test in Keith Thurman, had a close fight with him. So, you know, Manny Pacquiao, he's probably earned the right to move his career forward how he wants to. He just came off of a tough fight. If he wants to fight Errol Spence, he could make a whole bag doing that. Conor McGregor, Mikey Garcia, etc. Now, the problem for Crawford is, as I see it, Pacquiao fighting any of these guys that I just named, the likes of Errol Spence, who just did a great crowd, 16,000 plus in a pandemic. You know, Mikey Garcia, who brings a different market that Crawford wouldn't. You know, Latino fan base and whatnot, comes from a fight family. Things of this sort. And Conor McGregor, which is just, you know, kind of a crossover audience, a crossover fight. Conor McGregor, great showman. You know, part of what Bob Arum said in his complaint about losing money with Crawford was that Crawford don't promote himself the same. We know that's not an issue with Conor McGregor. So I don't really see Crawford getting the Pacquiao fight. Again, Pacquiao was aligned with the same people as Crawford at a point in time. They were on HBO together, in or around the same divisions, 140, 147. Pacquiao's not the biggest guy. He fought Chris Algieri at a catchweight of 143. Yet and still, Jeff Horn got a Pacquiao fight before Terence Crawford, which to me, I've always complained about, really made no sense. So it's looking like the ball's in Terence Crawford's court, and we'll see what he decides to do. Shawn Porter, I'll play a clip, but he believes that Crawford could come over to the PBC. He basically said that it would be in his best interest because the PBC doesn't necessarily need Crawford. You know, they have compelling and interesting welterweight fights that they can match in-house, and they could keep going business as usual. Meanwhile, the whole world of boxing realizes that that is not the case for Terence Crawford. His side of the street, if you will, no matter how much, you know, pressure Bob Arum or Terence Crawford tries to put on by funneling information and narratives through the media, the reality is they don't really have anyone for Crawford. And we're in a pandemic. Beyond that, Crawford is getting more money than most people at Top Rank, barring maybe like Tyson Fury or Lomachenko. They might be in the same bracket. Tyson Fury, his deal was kind of crazy. So Crawford's probably still top 3 paid over at Top Rank. The difference being Tyson Fury, he could fight Joshua. He could fight Wilder. He should fight Wilder next, you know? And these are pay-per-view fights. There is no pay-per-view fight. Lomachenko, you know, I don't know what his options are, but they could make a Teofimo rematch if they want. They could make some pretty good fights with him, like Berchelt. They could make an Oscar Valdez fight, right? Crawford doesn't have these same compelling names, and he definitely doesn't have a pay-per-view unless we're talking about a PBC fighter. So I like the Shawn Porter fight. I think Shawn Porter, everything he said was true. We know what Shawn Porter is and what he comes to do. He don't give you time to think. There's him and his dad. They have a great game plan. There's never been anyone that I've seen as a pro that ran through Shawn Porter. And Crawford is making this whole process more complex than it needs to be. You had a mandatory in Aegis Mean Machine Kavalauskas, and your team, your representation, had no problem fighting him. You said, oh, that's my mandatory. We got to fight him. You know, it's not up to us. But now Shawn Porter is your mandatory. What's the big difference? It's a bigger name. It's a better fight. I think fans would be more hype on a Crawford-Porter fight. What's the big difference? If you could fight one mandatory, and that's good, especially one that doesn't have a big profile here in the States, what's the difference between fighting Shawn Porter, your mandatory? The other real big issue is I could understand having a preference, and you say you want to fight Errol Spence Jr., but if you can't command Errol Spence. He's been doing heavy lifting and fighting top names and top quality opposition, even post-wreck, post-nasty graphic car wreck. So if you can't get that or Pacquiao, then why not fight a Shawn Porter? He clearly wants to fight you. He clearly sees something, or clearly sees this as a good fight. He's being respectful. He's saying, oh, Crawford's a great fighter, but here's why I think I could have some success and really push the limit on him, which he did with Errol Spence. That wasn't a walk in the park for Errol Spence. So the walls are kind of closing in on Terence Crawford, to be honest, because he has to make some decisions. People question his decision when he re-signed with Top Rank. I think it was in 2018, and now people have those same questions. What is his next move? What is he gonna do? Are you gonna fight Shawn Porter? You know, it seems really weird that Team Crawford has kind of put out this notion that it's Errol Spence, Pacquiao, or a bust. Like, the sense of entitlement to me sounds crazy. I think Shawn Porter, he doesn't have a belt. Keith Thurman doesn't have a belt. But these are viable options. Yes, you're going to have to pay these guys because these guys have made some great money, I'm sure, with Al and PBC. But this is supposed to be for legacy. And I don't know. We'll see. I don't know if Top Rank don't want to pay nobody, and they're already worried about losing money paying Crawford so much. But great fights beget better gates and better turnouts and more anticipation. So that's just what it is. The better the fight, the better the attraction and the event, and more people will be interested in it. It's that simple. It's that simple. All we know is Shawn Porter comes to bring it each and every time out. You know, Kell Brook, the best when with an opponent like that, people already had the complaints when the fight was announced. It wasn't promoted good. Like, put it this way. If what I'm saying is wrong, then how come ESPN barely promoted Crawford, Kell Brook, but they spent a lot of promotional energy on Teofimo Lomachenko? Because these networks at the heart of it and promotional companies aren't stupid. They know what's going to likely or stand a stronger chance to get them a return on their investment. They barely even promoted Crawford versus Brook. They only announced it a couple weeks before the actual fight, like 3 weeks before the actual fight. And there were some things going on behind the scenes, they said, with Crawford and Top Rank. But yet and still, they didn't really put that many ESPN and Top Rank resources behind that fight. You know why? Because they didn't anticipate it. So they wanted all profit. They didn't anticipate it being a financial success. So they were just trying to keep whatever money that they could from it. It's that simple. Because if you really believe in your event, you get behind the promotion to some degree, pandemic or not. So we'll see what Crawford decides. Shawn Porter is a great candidate. And if we suffered through Amir Khan not knowing how he was going to be, and Kell Brook fights, and Jose Benavidez, who got shot in the leg, not knowing how these fighters were even going to turn up, if they were injury free, or if Kell Brook's eyes were healthy, or if Khan's chin could deal with a supreme boxer, athlete, and brawler like Shawn Porter is saying, then Shawn Porter, if you ask me, sounds like an amazing option, because you know what Shawn Porter comes to do, and it satisfies your mandatory. We'll see what's decided. Shawn Porter says he's a fast starter, and that could give Crawford problems. Another reason why that's an interesting statement is because if you look at Crawford in some fights, Crawford is not always the fast starter. If you really know boxing, Crawford versus Thomas Delorme, I had Delorme up until Crawford started really figuring him out and turning it up. I don't know if he does that on purpose or whatever, but Delorme was up, Gamboa was up, Kell Brook was up. So guys can win rounds against the great Crawford early on. And Shawn Porter is telling you, but I'm a fast starter, so it's a different fight. I'm not giving you time to think. I'm not trying to figure you out and, you know, necessarily. I'm trying to present a problem to you asapolis. And you got to figure it out on the job, Johnny on the fly. And it seems like Shawn really wants this fight. And I really want the fight. Why, you know, rest in peace to Chadwick Boseman. Why on earth does Crawford get to not, like, this is Shawn Porter who he's fighting, the likes of Danny, Keith, Errol Spence. How is it that Terence Crawford, just because he got a belt in his first fight at welterweight and he was undisputed in a whole nother weight class, right? And everyone else, like this picture, Errol Spence and Shawn Porter, they doing the heavy lifting. They're doing the heavy lifting, fighting each other. Even Adrian Broner. Adrian Broner is a kind of a part-time welterweight. Sometimes he's there, sometimes he's at different weight classes. Broner has fought Shawn Porter. Broner fought a top 3 puncher at welterweight in his second fight, which is Marcos Maidana. But Crawford, in my opinion, at welterweight, his resume doesn't stack up. You heard the quote from Shawn Porter. He just told you. He said, I get it. Some of the guys that Crawford may have fought may not have been the best at the point in time, but he's good. You can't deny it. So I agree. I think Crawford is passing the eye test. He looks like all the goods. But if we know boxing, it's easier to look like the goods if you're not up against somebody who could pose the same type of challenge. Shawn Porter has posed a challenge to everyone he's fought. This is the difference, people. Let me know what you guys think. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. Use my link, ESPN Plus. They have a ton of original content, docuseries, documentaries, archive footage, and more for your viewing pleasure. ESPN Plus is $5.99 a month by clicking my link. $12.99 for the bundle. ESPN Plus, Hulu, and Disney Plus. All that content for one low price. I personally have all 3. Click on my link, ESPN Plus. Let me know if you want to see Shawn Porter versus Terence Crawford. I love the fight. And if you can't get Pacquiao Spence, which it sounds like they may have other plans or could even fight themselves, according to Pacquiao's own promotional team, and what they're saying to Yahoo Sports, this fight needs to happen. That's just my thoughts. Drop yours in the comment section as always. Hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video is Ego signing off.
You've played Monopoly with me before, and you know that when I get these properties, I'm looking at you and I'm about to squeeze you for everything you got. I'm about to squeeze you for everything you got. And that's what's going on right now with Terence Crawford. You want to come over here? Yeah, I kind of need you. We kind of need to make a trade, but who needs who more? And until you recognize that you need me more and you're willing to do whatever it takes to get over here and get these fights, then it's not going to happen. And I think that that's what's happening right now. And I'm not saying that AH is actually squeezing him and making it so that he feels vulnerable and has to come over, but he's like, hey, listen, I got a room full of buddies. You know what I mean? I don't need any more buddies. I wouldn't mind that buddy, but I don't need any more. And so because I don't need any more, I'm gonna continue to move the way we move and get down the way we get down. It's still big fights to be had right here. And if you're not willing to get down with us, I'm not gonna come looking for you. I'll wait for you to come looking for me.
So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxingego, the future of boxing.